Yeah, the president says that he's canceling student loans. He's not canceling those student loans. He is going to transfer the obligation to pay them back to those who already paid their student loans back or who never took the loan out in the first place. That's $400 billion being transferred from people who willingly took them on, in some cases making as a family $250,000 a year, to someone who never went to college, never wanted a loan, or if they did, they sacrificed to pay it back. It's wrong, it's unfair.
Wow, that's really creative. I'd love to see his tax returns if he is that much into fiction. That was Republican Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana complaining about forgiving student loan debt. A lot of hypocritical talking points there. But first off, a breakdown of what's really going on. So Republican Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, Joni Ernst of Iowa, and John Corbin of Texas, along with 36 other GOP senators, introduced a resolution on Monday to overturn Biden's debt relief program, which promises up to $20,000 of debt relief for eligible borrowers. The measure would also end the pandemic-related pause on federal student loan payments, which has been in place since March of 2020 and is set to expire this summer. The Republican senators introduced a resolution using the Congressional Review Act, which allows Congress to roll back regulations from the executive branch without needing to clear the 60-vote threshold in the Senate. That is necessary for most legislation. That's a nice little loophole. Well, Biden would very likely veto the resolution if it succeeds in both the Senate and the House, but votes would force members of his own party who have not all been in support of the student loan forgiveness program to take a public stance. The program is currently blocked, and the Supreme Court's expected to issue its ruling in late June or early July, and I'm sure the Supreme Court will find a way to ensure that we get stuck with all of the debt, make sure that we bear that burden. Always fun, Jordan.
Again, this is a uniquely American problem. We have this colossal, $1.7 trillion student debt bubble, and we're just expecting that to somehow resolve itself. The Student Loan or Student Borrower Protection Center has been warning about the reinstatement of payments causing a mass default or mass missed payment scenario because people just can't afford it. We had a massive transfer of wealth during the pandemic, and people were out of work, economic hardship increased, now we're dealing with inflation. That's why Trump paused payments, because the president has the authority to do that. And this to the president and the Secretary of Education, rather. And we acknowledged in that moment, this is a problem. This is a very serious economic problem for millions of people around the country. And now Republicans, many of whom took PPP loans, by the way, and had those forgiven, they had no problem taking that money. Never mind that I was never part of your company. I never took on the agreement to pay your employees, but somehow I had to pay the bill for you. Now that same rationale doesn't apply when it applies to when it comes to the millions of student loan borrowers. And people are just expected to suddenly deal with a huge mountain of debt because the cost of college has increased over the past 10, 15 years, or in some cases, hundreds of percent. The wage increase since that time, I think it's around 15 to 20% overall. How are we expected to pay for this? How are people truly expected to pay for this? And they're delaying major life decisions as a result of this. If they really want to see a sustainable, vibrant economy going forward, they should allow a moderate level of cancellation here.
Absolutely, and the thing is they know they have the research out there to show how it would benefit us all if they were to forgive debt, if they were to provide free education, but they don't want to do it, of course, because they need to maintain the classes, they need to maintain the divide, and they want to discourage us as much as possible from getting any sense of higher education, because the more educated we are, the more difficult we are to control, and it makes it more difficult for them to be able to lie to us and for us to swallow it and say it's a-okay. Yet still, as you've mentioned, Jordan, you have members of the right, you have these Republicans who were perfectly fine with debt being forgiven in various walks of life, as long as it serves them, as we saw with the PPP loans, so many of which were completely and totally wiped out. Also, we know the gentleman, Bill Cassidy, as we saw, the Louisiana representative, no problem with taxpayers being burdened by the $858 billion in defense budget debt, as well as what he had argued passionately for a $700 billion Wall Street bailout. The fact is that our leaders on the right have no problem whatsoever with the government picking up their tab as long as it's theirs. And as long as it helps, again, maintain that class divide and keep people in a situation where they are struggling and that they have to continue to be good worker bees as opposed to educated individuals who are recognized as contributing members of society and have an opportunity to live life to its fullest and to be able to have families and all of the other good things that individuals should have in life. But instead, the right would prefer we have bills and oppression. Then again, once again, just my thought.